my screen. Do you want, or there you go.
We're going. Hello, everyone. Come on in. Awesome. We'll get started in a couple minutes. I want to make sure that we give ample time for all of our listeners to get in tonight. Get your tea, get your coffee, get your water, whatever you need. We'll be together for the next hour. Hello, everyone. Come on in. All right, we're seeing some folks roll in. Hi, everyone. Awesome. Okay, I don't want to waste any time. We are going to have a very awesome conversation tonight with two fabulous XYPN members, specifically about a topic many of you are very, very, very interested in, which is how technology plays a role in our RIAs today. So before I begin, hello, I am Maddie Roach. I'm XYPN's Director of Member Services. I've been with the XYPN team since nearly day one, and I've hosted this call for almost 4 years. It's one of our favorite calls because this allows the folks, all of you callers, to have an opportunity to open up that curtain a bit and learn a lot more about membership and really what it takes to start, run, and grow RIAs. And tonight we've got two members who have done just that, but specifically we've got folks on the call today who are really interested in technology. Now, we're not going to say that they're total experts at technology by any means. They may say so, and I may find that out, but they have a particular interest in it and a passion around it. And I think that that's where a lot of the fun conversation is going to come from, is that as you all become firm owners, you realize that you do have specific interests and niches yourself. So this is going to be a fun conversation tonight. But before we dive in, I do want to touch on a couple things. One, we want to make sure that this was a meaningful conversation to you. And if you end up joining XYPN because of something Arielle or Adam said on the call tonight, let us know on the application. We always ask, was there someone that referred you to XYPN? Let us know it was this webinar. Let us know it was Arielle or Adam, and we will give credit where credit is due. And then, of course, I want to plug next month's conversation, which is all about study groups. We're going to find out how study groups can actually supercharge your success as an RIA. And we're going to have two awesome members talk about that. So go ahead and check out the chat. Near the end of the conversation, for some of these links, remember, we will send a follow-up email. And most importantly, we will be sending a survey out towards the end of this conversation because we want to know if this was a productive one. Last but not least, let's submit questions in the question Q&A segment of Zoom. We received lots of good questions already. We're going to get to as many as possible. But ultimately, we will ask the questions that we find most relevant and meaningful for today's conversation, and I will be manning those Q&As as they come in. So please don't hesitate to drop in a question. I would love to make sure you get that answered before the end of tonight. So like I said, we'll be with each other till the top of the hour. I promise to deliver awesome answers to your questions until that last moment. And then you can maybe stalk these two on Twitter or Instagram or all their other social media. But let's start with our first host, who is actually a return host, Arielle Minicozzi. Would you like to introduce yourself and your firm?
Yes, thanks, Maddie. Hi, everybody. I am Arielle Minicozzi. I am an XY Planning Network member since November of 2017, so it's been a while. And I am a RIA owner of Modern Money Advisor. I have a partner, Angela Moore, and I also run and operate an automation business for other financial advisors, Sphinx Automation, where I help advisors set up their tech stacks and automate their workflow so that they can work better with clients and be more efficient. I'm really excited to be here tonight. Thank you so much for having me, and thanks everybody for hopping on a really late night call.
Yeah, I recognize that this is late for our East Coasters. And when I said that our folks tonight aren't experts at tech, that's a lie. What I'm saying is that they're not experts at every tech. Arielle certainly has made a business from her expertise. Adam, why don't you introduce yourself and your firm? Oh, let's unmute you, bud. And yep, go ahead and click on.
Sorry about that. I'm on the tail end of a cold, and so I don't want to have like a little coughing fit and like supersede anybody. So Thank you for the reminder of muting. So Adam Cmejla, I've been in the business for 12 years, went off on my own back in 2011, went fee only in 2017, joined XYPN in beginning of Q4 2018 as well, or in 2018. So a little over a year, I believe, that I've been with XY right now. RIA on the north side of Indianapolis, serve about 104 households in 24 states. I am one of those advisors that has a niche weird type clientele. So I specifically work with optometrists that are within 5 years of selling their practice in private equity deal. So that is my niche within a niche within a niche. And so we could different conversation for a different time, but like Arielle, I've also found another kind of passion project of mine as it pertains to the working on a business and specifically setting up workflow systems. We use Redtail in our CRM. I'm that old school. I'm not in the Wealth Box bandwagon yet or anything like that. So I've been using Redtail since 2009, and we have 60 plus workflows that we've used in our firm, and we work with advisors all over the country to help them implement our workflow solutions into their system. So it's kind of that paint by numbers instead of a blank canvas. So excuse me, Arielle and I have shared a conversation one-on-one as well. So yeah, I think it's going to be a fun conversation tonight. I'm looking forward to both of our perspectives because she has a wealth of information. I'm hoping to bring some information to you as well here. And thank you for the platform and opportunity to share.
Awesome, Adam. Thank you so much for that intro. Arielle, why don't you answer this question first? Why is incorporating technology important in today's RIA space? Is it something folks can avoid?
Unfortunately, I don't think it's avoidable. And I say unfortunately in a sort of a joking tone because I think that adopting technology can add a lot of efficiency around administrative type of tasks. When you got into this business as an advisor, or if you're thinking about getting into the business as an advisor, you're probably not imagining all the hats you have to wear as a business owner. Sending follow-up emails and scheduling appointments with your clients. And doing those things and taking the time to do those things takes away time from the actual value add that you're bringing to your client relationships, which is those conversations around life issues and money issues that your clients are having. So when it comes to implementing technology, probably can't be avoided, but maybe that's a good thing. And there are a lot of cost-effective options out there, including a lot of the tech stack offerings that XYPN brings along with their membership. A lot of those come included in the cost of the membership. And then if you need to supplement, there are other options out there, but a lot of what you need, you can really just use the basic stuff that XY provides.
Awesome. And that's such a good point that tech, when we think of it, it isn't just to make your delivery to your service, you know, the end result of your client having a very techie experience. It's very much to make your life easier. Adam, what do you think? Why is technology adoption important in today's space?
I don't think you have an option with it, especially in the Amazon economy that we're in the Amazon experience. We're used to pushing a few buttons on our phone and having what we want, when we want it, how we want it on our doorstep within 48 hours. And yet the financial services model largely is still a very antiquated business model. And the technology is helping to bridge that gap. And certainly the RIA channel affords that opportunity, that flexibility, and that latitude much more than the older, again, quote unquote, legacy business models. But if we can all agree, and I think we all can, that the process of quote unquote delivering a financial plan and the investment allocation, the investment management experience is, for lack of a better word, just completely commoditized, then the only thing that you have left is your expertise and your experience. And technology is a way that you can leverage both of those things, because with more time you can make more money, but with more money you cannot make more time. And the combination of the effectiveness of technology and the how cheap, for lack of a better word, how cheap it is to implement some of these pieces of technology. I mean, Acuity scheduling revolutionized the way in which we schedule the client appointments. We've been using that for, gosh, 4 years now. Mm-hmm. It's $200 a year. I mean, the amount of time that my team would spend back and forth scheduling appointments, I mean, that's just one example. And not only is it good for us, but again, back to that client experience, you have to put everything that you're doing in your firm through the filter of, how is this reflecting in the client experience? And then also look at it, is this helping me run an efficient and effective practice? Because if you focus on the former first and don't take the client experience into consideration, you're cart before the horse. You're missing the point.
Yeah, totally agree. Adam, did you know, you've been in the business for a number of years. Has this been an evolution of more and more tech every year, more reliance on it, more integration of it? Or was this something you just knew was going to be part of this picture when you walked into the RIA space?
So I made the conscious effort of stop chasing shiny objects about 3 years ago. And I say that somewhat tongue in cheek because it is a very squirrel, right? We can all find there's so much coming out. And again, for those on the call that haven't had a taste of what the RIA space is like when you're calling the shots, you have kind of the world as your oyster, and that can be a very dangerous proposition to be in because you can very quickly be distracted by all the new shiny objects that are coming out while not really understanding how am I getting a return on time for this, and is it impacting in a positive way my client experience. So yes, it's been a slow evolution. I have caught myself implementing pieces of technology that are like, ooh, this is a really cool idea, and then afterwards it's like, wait, I found a solution in search of a problem. I didn't really have a problem that I needed a solution for. So just be very conscious of that when you see technology. It may look all shiny and like, ooh, let me get my hands on that. But make sure that you have a problem in your firm that you're trying to solve and that the juice is worth the squeeze with that piece of technology.
Really great piece of advice. That's really wonderful. Arielle, going to you, was technology always an interest of yours at the previous roles that you've had, or was this something that once you became an owner, you realized, oh, I love this?
It's funny because it was pretty immediate for me. And I think Adam makes a really good point. It's hard not to chase the shiny object when you see the evolving landscape of fintech and just tech in general that's accessible to small businesses that we didn't have access to before. It's really appealing to try and set up something new to save time. And I fortunately and unfortunately fell very much prey to that scenario. And hence it led me to starting my other business. So in my case, it ended up being a good thing. But I imagine most people who are starting RIAs don't go into that with the mindset of wanting to also simultaneously start a technology business. So yes, it was something that I initially knew that I was going to do. And the reason why is I came from the mortgage industry. Before I was an advisor, I was a loan officer. And just like Adam's point earlier, the advisory business is quite a legacy style business. So is the mortgage industry. And I knew that there had to be a better way. If it was going to just be me and not have a team supporting me, not have an admin or a customer service person who could schedule my calls for me and follow up with clients, I knew that in order to scale and to grow my business, I would either have to hire somebody sooner than I was comfortable with, or I would have to rely on technology to supplement that. So I started from day one, setting up my processes and setting up my systems, and fortunately, it all worked out great, but I think Adam's point is very valid that you don't need to do it all at once. Start little by little, see what problems you have, and then try and solve those problems rather than looking at the solutions and trying to come up with a problem that you can solve with them.
Yeah, I guess one thing that I would add on to this as well, again, this is knowing the audience and the people on this call, is that if anybody's ever read anything by Nick Murray, you can very quickly find yourself evaluating all these different pieces of technology, and it's just masking as avoidance behavior. So don't think that you're going to get it perfect the first time. Don't think that you're going to get your tech stack all polished and everything's going to talk to one another and it's all going to be integrated and it's going to be this glorious platform that just runs seamlessly and smoothly. If you don't have any clients, it really doesn't matter. So you do the bare minimum that you need to deliver that client experience, but don't use trying to build your tech stack as a substitute for just getting out there and talking to people and revving up conversations and having those dialogues. Because yes, and again, this is speaking from someone that's had a podcast going for the last year and a half. It's where between the podcast and LinkedIn, it's where the majority of my new client business is coming from right now. But that still requires the conversations to seed those, to seed the podcast, to have the conversations with the prospective clients. So it still is that interaction. And I've seen and talked to too many advisors where they spend so much time working on the business that there really isn't a business there to work in. So just be cognizant of how you're spending your time and be very honest and authentic with yourself when you take inventory of how you're showing up in practice.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Especially during those first few years. We know that as you evolve your firm, time becomes more and more and more limited. So there is somewhat of an urgency to be able to scale your firm, but ultimately you have a lot of important things to do and not always just reviewing what the newest, latest tech is. And one of the reasons we have our core technology stack at XYPN is to help you avoid recreating the wheel and going out and testing 27 CRMs. So to answer some of the kind of a theme of some of the questions that were submitted, Arielle, during your first year, what were some of like the most clutch tech that you would say is worth spending time getting familiar with? And
by the way, there is no perfect CRM, just to let you know. There is no perfect CRM. So
we agree on
that note. Sorry, I had to get that in there. I didn't mean to steal the thunder there, but I had to get
totally
that in there.
And I love, Adam, that you use Redtail, because we did have a couple questions about Redtail versus WealthBox, so we will get to that conversation. But Arielle, what tech would be the most important for people to focus on the first year and know that they really need to be getting their butts outside networking otherwise?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I would honestly say the single most important piece of tech is definitely scheduling software.
Yeah.
If you're going to implement anything at all, put a scheduler in place, because to Adam's point, if you don't have clients to work with, you have no business to automate, and you have no business using technology if you have no business in the first place. So for sure, scheduler. Once you have a couple clients under your belt, what I typically advise people to do is, in the first year of your business, document everything you're doing. If you want to add a couple pieces of technology, my second choice would be a CRM software for sure. WealthBox is a great option. Redtail's, in my opinion, not quite as good, but
I'm kidding.
Disagree on that.
It's not good. I tell advisors I work with all the time, my motto is I'm doing the best I can with what I have, because I know what I have isn't the best. So,
but it's not a bad software. It's totally fine. And other than that, really, I think building out templates and building out processes is going to be really the biggest focus during your first year, rather than thinking about what technology you need. Once you have those initial 2 pieces of software, documenting every time you send an email. Did you like how it sounded? Great, make it a template. If you conduct a process in a specific way, document the steps that you took to complete that process, so that you can go back and make that as efficient as possible, and essentially limit the opportunity for confusion at any stage of the process, both for yourself and your clients, because the more you do it, the more you'll know. But if you can document it, you can also share that documentation with your clients and give them a physical overview of what they can expect. And then if you hire in the future, whether that's an admin or another advisor for your firm, you'll already have these pre-built training modules essentially that you can share, and that'll make that ramp up time to growing your business and scaling that much more efficient as well.
I hope everyone's got their notebook out like I do and are taking notes on this. This is really, really meaningful and helpful. Adam, what would you say, and I guess, is Calendly an adequate scheduling program? Someone has asked.
Truth be told, I've never used Calendly. I've used Acuity and it has done wonders for me. So if it's not broke, I'm not going to fix it. I know firms that use Calendly and they're happy with it. So Arielle, maybe you can speak to it more. I don't know Calendly that well.
Yeah, I think Calendly is my top pick as far as scheduling software. Acuity is a really close second. Acuity is a great program. My very last pick would be Schedule Once. Please, especially if you want to do any kind of complicated segmentation of your clients, please don't use Schedule Once. That's all I say.
Yeah, I use Schedule Once in the consulting business, and the reason I do that is because I use Infusionsoft for all of my process automation. Like taking advisors that sign up with us from point of purchase through training, video delivery, et cetera, and you can use Schedule Once. It's very tag friendly. So you can create an integration, and if they do this, then tag them this way and send them this meeting request. So you can build all that in Schedule Once. that sound like, this is a perfect example. This is exhibit A of, ooh, that sounds really awesome. Don't do that. You don't need that right now. I would argue that I don't need that in the consulting business. The only reason I had it is because I paid a consultant a couple grand to build it myself and automate it because I didn't want to do that. The other thing that I don't like about Schedule Once that I do like about Acuity, and maybe you can do this with Calendly as well, is that if someone decides to cancel an appointment in Schedule Once, you can't cancel that for them and you can't book the appointment within the software either. You basically have to book the appointment for them as if you were the client. So when someone calls into our office and my office manager, Kathy, answers the phone, even if she's doing that appointment over the phone, she is scheduling the appointment in Acuity. Because again, it's that consistency of client experience. We want the client to get used to getting that, that Acuity confirmation. We have reminders that go out 3 different times. So it's that consistency. So Acuity, we can work at it behind the scenes as the advisor, and obviously from their end, the front end, they can use it on a website or an email or however you want to do it. Arielle, I'm curious, what do you like about, see, this is, I'm being careful here because I'm going down a path of a shiny object, but I am curious. What do you like? Why is Calendly just slightly higher than Acuity for you?
I think that it's just a little simpler to use. There's a
Okay.
lot of screens to click through in Acuity, and Calendly walks you through step by step that initial setup, and it's very, very, very user friendly. It's like comparing a Mac to a PC. They're both great, but you can just look at it and know what to do in Calendly.
Got it. Okay. I do want to go back to something that Arielle was saying as well, back to the core piece of tech, just add on quickly before we go on to the next question. Absolutely agree. Scheduling and CRM, pretty much 1A and 1B, like those go hand in hand. You have to have a CRM. I think most people on this call, we don't have to explain that Outlook is not a CRM. So whether it's Wealthbox, Redtail, less annoying CRM, like I think it's pretty much between the majority of advisors, especially with the relationship, are going to end up on Wealthbox, a great CRM. I love the fact that they recently kind of gave their workflow engine an upgrade. So that's awesome. One thing that we have done in our firm that has taken a little bit of a different spin on the documentation is we use a tool called Use Loom. So useloom.com. It's a Chrome plugin. The pro version, I think, is $90 a year. And you can do desktop recordings, you can do browser recordings. So rather than if I want to document how to fill out an application and things like that, I could type it all out, do an outline, or I could just click Use Loom and say, all right, so for any future team member that may be responsible for opening an account at TD Ameritrade, here's how we go and do it. And then you just walk through the process. And so we have a folder in our Loom library that is basically our ongoing training videos for new team members that come on, which then complement the workflows that we built inside the CRM. It's useloom.com. I just saw someone chat up there. Use, as in you're using something, useloom.com.
Love it. Great, great advice. Arielle, someone did have a question. When you said templates a couple answers ago, do you mean workflows, meaning loaded into Wealthbox?
I mean anything that you can repeat. So whether that's an email or a process, a follow-up message of any kind, anything that you're doing more than twice, I would say, you should make a template for it. And basically what I mean by that is just instructions for yourself on how to do it again. A draft email. Google Doc is a great place for that because you can quickly edit it step by step. Here's what I did, or here's this email that I sent. And basically, like Adam was saying, have a library that you can reference to go back to. And I think your point, Adam, about having videos is also awesome. If you can make it yourself, if you can make it more efficient for yourself and for your clients by just simply recording a video, it takes so much less time than typing things out. Even better. That's a great idea.
Yeah. And I use that. There's another video service out there called BombBomb, as in like you're throwing bombs that explode, BombBomb. I don't like, BombBomb's okay. I like Loom is just so simple. And BombBomb is more of a marketing software first with a video component second. It has a whole automation engine that you can build out very similar to like ConvertKit or an ActiveCampaign or MailChimp, things like that. But it has a video component. I use Loom. I send videos to my prospects. I mean, I hammered out probably 15 prospect videos yesterday to our OD clients that I'm like, I've got 15 people that are in the pipeline where we're trying to kind of find that onboarding time. So I can either sit and type an email. Hey, Maddie, really enjoyed our conversation that we had a couple months ago, blah, 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 blah. Or I can say, hey, Maddie, just wanted to send you a quick note, create a hyperlink, and then do, Maddie, you know, I really appreciated the conversation that we had a couple months ago about aligning with our firm and how we work with you. I just wanted to circle back around and see where you stood in that decision-making process. Is it like, you're just bringing the authenticity of you? Granted, it's two-dimensionally instead of three-dimensionally, but given the fact that we work with all clients virtually now in 24 states, the ability to just send a quick video like that, it's awesome. So think about adding that video component as you're prospecting, especially if you're working with people in a remote sense. And that's where use Loom. I mean, it is between Acuity and Loom. Those are probably the two things that I would almost pay 10x what I pay for.
Wow. Awesome. That says a lot. And I love this idea of recording yourself, both for training purposes, but also just to be able to go back and say, like, well, what did I do? And in some, I mean, I still revisit processes that maybe I haven't touched in a year, and I need to remember what they are. And it'd be so helpful if I had recorded those. We have started to incorporate those videos into trainings. And I love that that's kind of the third prong of the most important tech in the first couple months to the year. I don't want to ask explicitly Redtail versus Wealthbox, but let's talk about it in context of other questions. We had a member, and not so used to saying a member, we had someone submit a question about whether they should use Process Street for workflow management or use Wealthbox with Zapier. So I guess we could replace Wealthbox with Redtail in those answers. And we'll start with you, Arielle.
Yes, you asked, did you plan this question?
I was gonna say that sounds like a seated question. I'm not gonna lie. That might be, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
I am such a proponent of Process Street. I love Process Street so much. So I feel like I don't know if you knew that already, but this is a perfect question for me. I think it really depends. And one of the questions that somebody submitted before the webinar was whether it made more sense to have an all-in-one tech solution or have multiple tech solutions. I think the answer really depends on your personality and your working style. I would rather have multiple solutions that do everything as best as possible, and then use something like Zapier to link them together so all my systems are talking to each other and the data is flowing in between them. So it's almost like I'm using one system, but I'm getting the benefits. But especially for firms just starting out who are really trying to cut costs and focus on those core components that we were speaking about earlier, I don't think it's necessary to add a workflow specific system like Process Street in the early days. And as much as I love it, Process Street, for those of you who don't know, is a workflow specific software where you can document step by step what your workflows are, and then using a system like Zapier, you can automate other actions to happen in other systems and vice versa. And you have the option to do conditional logic where you can show or hide tasks depending on selections in previous tasks. They just added a new approvals feature where you can prove that a task was completed appropriately or not and notify everybody. So there's a lot of advantages to using something like Process Street. You get a lot more comprehensive and robust use from such a system, but is it going to improve your efficiency? Is it worth the cost? It really just depends on what stage you are in your firm's process building and how much you're going to actually use it. And if you're the type of person that doesn't like to jump around and you'd rather have everything all in one place, that's also something to consider as well. Having everything in one spot into your CRM for some people is just worth the little bit less robust ability to do other things. And Wealthbox is improving their workflow capabilities too. So I will say that.
Yeah, definitely. Adam, I guess, why don't you answer the same question, but in response to Redtail?
Yeah, so this is probably the one thing that I think, and I'm semi-serious in like the one thing that Redtail does better than Wealthbox, because everything else within Redtail, again, to just be completely honest, it doesn't have the best UI, user interface, excuse me. It's kind of clicky in that you have to click around to kind of a number of different areas to get what you want. Wealthbox is just a sleeker interface, but the one thing that I have found Redtail, which by no means is perfect, but it does have a more robust workflow engine. It does have the conditional logic built into it. It's attached to contact records. The automations in there can kick off. The automations inside of Redtail can kick off workflows and vice versa, or not really vice versa, but so there is a little bit more horsepower on the workflow side of things. I used to be in the camp of saying I want all my tech in all kinds of different places, because if I don't like this piece of tech, then I can just fire that piece of tech and replace it with something else. I still am in that camp, and I guess the only reason that I'm in that camp is because of Zapier. Zapier makes life so much easier. We're all looking for that. That's why I kind of joked earlier, like there is no perfect CRM. There's no perfect anything out there. You're always going to find something that you wish it just did this, or wish it just did this little thing better. So Zapier makes it a lot easier. I am leaning more towards trying to find things that do more things all in one. I mean, we wrote out our tech stack, and it's on just one 8.5 by 11 paper, and I've got bubbles all over the place with arrows going, this talks to this two-way, this talks only one way, and things like that. So what I would say and emphasize to, and again, I know everybody on the call is maybe at a different place in their firm or where they're at right now and what is prompting them to consider XYPN. If you're in the beginning stages of not having a firm and not having clients, you're still in ready, fire, aim mode about what your processes are going to look like. So for you to spend a lot of time and energy trying to document what your processes are right now, like, don't take this the wrong way, you don't know what your processes are right now. You're still trying to figure that out. Granted, XYPN has some great templates and some great guidelines, but consider that to be the paint by numbers. It's not the finished project. It's your role to understand what those processes look like and color them into the way in which you want to build your firm. And then once you have some confidence in what your process is going to look like for the type of client and the type of client that you're working for and the service and deliverables that you're giving to them, now once you have some clarity around that, now you can start thinking about putting some infrastructure behind your process. But short of like going on a whim, which I don't recommend, to Arielle's point, start documenting it briefly, but don't, again, that's where I go back to that avoidance behavior. Don't spend all the time in the world trying to build out this purpose workflow engine because you're not sure what your workflows are right now.
Yeah, great tips. About 83% of our advisors at XYPN use Wealthbox, and I'm sure some of them do use Redtail on the side of, or the other folks use Redtail. And one of the things that we've recently done at XYPN is surveyed all of our members about technology recently, and we send out a really comprehensive tech survey in an interest to see what calendar software are folks using? What are these other tools that they're using? Are there things and partnerships that we want to be leveraging? But most importantly, figure out what everyone's using so that we can really urge these partners to step up their game when it comes to different capabilities. We've worked a lot with Wealthbox over the years. We're now feeling like a lot of the work that our financial planning process coach has created is going into Wealthbox. And one of the benefits of using some of the tech on the XYPN tech stack is that your other members in your study group, the other members in the forums, the other members at XYPN Live, the other members on calls like this are likely using a lot of the core tech stack. And I think to Adam's point, tech does evolve as your firm evolves. Like we can't get that niche where there's a one shoe fits all or one size fits all tech stack for firms. And that's really where you as an advisor take ownership and say, this is the process that I need to deliver. This is the tech I want to use. We had someone drop in a point that this is also great. So good job, folks. How heavily have you invested in investment-centric tech? So let's move from CRM to investment-centric tech. For example, portfolio accounting, performance reporting, tax automation, etc. Arielle?
I'll leave this question to Adam because in my business, Angela is the one that handles all of our investment processes. So I will toss that right over to you, Adam.
Cool, Adam.
Yeah, so in my opinion, there are 3 major platforms that an advisor wants to change as few times in their professional career as possible. That is your CRM, your portfolio management system, and your custodian. Of course, the whole TD Schwab thing, kind of yay for us. We get to deal with that. You know what show coming up here, but we'll stay tuned. So I made the decision early on. I went with Orion. Orion was the piece of software. I will say, and this is before I joined XY, so it is still to this day the most expensive piece of tech in my P&L, in my tech stack, or on my P&L within my technology expenditure. It's still the most expensive piece of tech. But I took a quote. Anybody that's read Stephen Covey's Seven Habits of Highly Effective People, right? Begin with the end in mind. And I didn't want to limp my way in with the bare bones portfolio management, portfolio accounting. Let me just say this: you're thinking that you're going to account for it in an Excel document, you're you know what, crazy. Like, just please, for the love of all that is mighty and holy, don't do that for multiple different reasons: compliance, errors, time. I mean, confident. There's so many reasons. So I went in with Orion. I will say I'm using probably 20% of the horsepower within Orion. And I'm okay with that because it's for what I needed to do. I have the confidence that it's doing it right. It gets me the information that I need, when I need it, how I need it. Clients have a good interface with it. Although candidly, we spend more time resetting passwords for clients that want to get in there because like the extent of our investment conversations with clients is, what's my percentage of stocks? 75. Any other questions? Nope. Okay. I mean, it's just like, they don't, for lack of a better word, they don't care about the details that Orion can give. Having said that, again, I think it is important to have that platform or to get that right in your practice based off of, again, when the vision is clear, the decision becomes easy. So if a part of your practice is going to focus on investment management, on investment planning for your clients, and that's one of the value adds that you're going to be bringing to the table, well, then you want to make sure that the tech component that you have will complement that very well. The last thing that you want to do for your clients is overpromise on what you're overpromise and underdeliver. So make sure that you do get that right in your firm based off of the type of you know, how investment centric are you going to be with your clients in that planning process?
Yeah, great. We do have a full-time staff member at XYPN that runs the Orion partnership, and he would work with you to learn if your firm is really, if Orion is appropriate for your firm. Because to Adam's point, it's a hefty software, but man,
I sure wish I was a member of XY before I signed that at the time. Well, long story short, I wasn't able. Orion wasn't a partner of XY when I signed up with Orion.
Yeah.
So my 3-year contract with Orion is up in February. Guess who my first call is going to be the day after that contract expires?
I was hoping so. Good, Adam. That's wonderful.
Yes.
The discount at Orion for Orion at XYPN can almost pay for membership in total. So
yeah,
Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just saying, I mean, if you're interested in, I mean, right now, well, when I signed up, so the minimum, I mean, I'm paying $15K a year for Orion right now. So that's bare bones minimum. I don't have that many accounts, so I'm paying full freight for it at that rate. And to Maddie's point, the discount, there's a significant delta between what most firms in XY are going to experience from a cost standpoint versus what you're going to pay at street level if you're just outside of XY.
Yeah, awesome. How about risk analysis tools? Adam, do you have any comments on that?
Tread lightly here.
I didn't know we would have such a contentious conversation.
No, I say tread lightly in this only just because in this I'll take full ownership on this and that I haven't invested. I mean, we use Riskalyze and it's been an okay platform. It hasn't won me clients. It hasn't saved relationships. It's a good conversation. It's a good platform. I just don't find that I still have a hard time thinking that a piece of technology like that is going to somehow bridge the emotional gap between what happens in the markets and how they feel. Because guess what? If someone fills out a risk tolerance right now with the last 120 months in a bull market, everybody's feeling pretty good. If I do that same exact risk tolerance on December 21st of 2018, when the market was down 19.5% peak to trough in, what was that, 75, 80 days, something like that, the same exact client with the same exact goals, same exact timeline is going to answer that question differently. I don't want to get on my soapbox too much about that, but there's value in them. I will say this, you have to have an investment policy statement. Don't think that you're going to go into this business without any type of IPS on file with a client. I'm personally of the opinion that risk tolerance softwares are not all they're cracked up to be, but again, I may be in the minority.
Yeah, great pieces of advice. I've got a whole page of notes. This is an interesting question. What about client meeting note dictation? This is a live question that was just submitted. Does either of you use that? Arielle, do you use anything like that?
You know, I really don't. I probably should. But typically what I try to do, Adam's flexing, he's got something I'm sure up his sleeve. But what I will say is this, my advice around taking meeting notes as a best practice is to have a template. Again, the word template for your meeting notes. So know before you go into meeting the high level points that you're planning to cover with your client. And if you can have a structure in place, my typical structure is, here's a brief summary of what we talked about during our meeting. Here are the next steps that I'm going to do, and here are the next steps that I need you to do. And as we're having that conversation, I'm actually documenting my meeting notes. I'm documenting those next steps for both myself and the client as we're having that conversation, so that I can avoid having to go back after we're done and spend an hour cleaning up my notes and sending that email with a summary of everything that we talked about. If you can do it while you go, and if you can get into that habit, you have a lot less need for that dictation type of software. And what I also would advise, with your client's permission, of course, is that you can record if you're using something like Zoom, or if you're, even if you're having an in-person meeting, record at least the audio of your conversation. That way, if you do have to go back for whatever reason, even if it's just immediately after you have the meeting, to just say, hey, I know I missed this information that my client gave me. Let me just quickly go back to that part of our meeting, take the notes, and then delete the recording. That's also a great idea. But of course, again, I'll say ask for your client's permission before you record, because that's a privacy issue. So
definitely. But if it's to help support the end delivery of that service, it's a pretty persuasive ask. So I think that I, as a consumer, would be humbled if an advisor wanted to record a conversation with me. Adam, tell us what you got up your sleeve for client meeting note dictation technology.
Yeah, so I'm a big fan of this, partly because I'm lazy and partly just because it's more efficient, which I guess kind of go hand in hand. So we use Mobile Assistant, which has a deep integration within Redtail. I don't know if it has an integration with Wealthbox. If it does, great. And to Arielle's point, from a template standpoint, we have the nice thing about Mobile Assistant is that you can upload templates into your account. So when I dictate a note, it takes me anywhere from 3 to 5 minutes to dictate notes from a 75-minute client appointment. The format, the template that we use for note dictation is the exact same format of our meeting agenda. So when we have a meeting agenda, we put what we want to talk about on the agenda. We send that out to the client at least 2 weeks before we're going to be meeting with them. They fill in what they want to talk about, send it back to us. That way, nobody's surprised with what we're going to be talking about. Then we go through our meeting. On that agenda, I'm just taking down small little notes. I'm jotting down 2 or 3 words here, a couple of numbers here, just little mental triggers for me. And then at the end of the day, I do client surges. So we do client appointments 3 times per year, February, June, and October. And so it's not uncommon for me to have anywhere from 4 to 7 appointments per day. So when I'm done with that appointment, the last 30 to 45 minutes of my day is just calling up Mobile Assistant. I've got my agendas on the desk. I dictate 3 to 5 minutes per dictation. That then gets transcribed and automatically put into the CRM, into Redtail. My office manager then will go into that note and pick out the action items for me, the action items for her, and the action items for the client, and then put those in their respective places so that everybody does what they're supposed to be doing when it's supposed to be done. I used to be able to type out all the notes. Again, back to the laziness. I can type okay. It's so much, as you can tell, I can be pretty verbose. So it's easy for me to just pick up a phone, talk, dictate the notes. And I will say that as you start adding more clients, for me, the capacity was probably around 65 households. Before that, I could still remember what I talked with a client about a year ago. Now at 106 households, it'll be 90 days and I'm like, oh shit, what did we talk about? Let me go back to the notes. But because my dictated notes are so much more thorough than what it would be that I would type, it allows me to be so much more impactful and personalized when I connect with them in that follow-up conversation. So yeah, big fan of dictation. Mobile Assistant, Copy Talk is another one. Dragon Dictation, I know, has gone through a number of iterations. There's an app on your phone that you can use. I've tried those AI-based platforms. When you're talking the financial jargon that we're talking about, I found that I've spent more time cleaning up the notes versus Copy Talk and Mobile Assistant. It's another human being listening to what you're transcribing. So they know the financial services business. So the notes are going to come in much more clean. And so it's going to be basically a copy paste into your CRM rather than you or your office manager scrolling through and figuring out like, oh, that was supposed to mean 401k. And it's something completely, Like, so
Right.
just an example. But yes, absolutely use mobile or a dictation service. Big fan.
And I think that there's so much self-awareness in that answer of what your strengths are and what your weaknesses are. And I think playing and using tech to support those strengths and to support your weaknesses is a really smart move. Really, really neat.
It's the same thing with hiring. Like when you get to the point of making your first hire, please don't hire a carbon copy of yourself. Please don't think that you need to find someone like just like you. That's the worst thing that you could do for your firm. So the same thing is on a tech standpoint. Figure out what your weaknesses are and then solve for the problem. Don't find a solution in search of a problem. Identify your problem, identify your weaknesses, and then figure out who, not how, right? Who or what can I solve, can I bring into my practice to help solve these problems?
Absolutely. Arielle, what about mobile technology solutions? I mean, any idea on that?
So if by mobile technology, does that mean phone services, texting?
You know, I read the question. I wasn't totally sure what they meant. I was thinking either in terms of the client being able to look at their phone and see things, or is it, I think maybe what you alluded to.
Yeah.
I
think as far as phone technology, there are two primary platforms that I would suggest right now. Number one being Ring Central and number two being Jive. And it depends on what you need, how much you're willing to pay, and where you're located. Because as much as I love Ring Central, I've had other XYPN members tell me that they have bad service coverage where they're located. So I think that's really a big consideration. But one of the really cool things about Ring Central in particular, and Jive is working on adding this feature too, is the Zapier integration piece. So again, as Adam mentioned, as many things as you can get to talk to each other with Zapier, it's a game changer, it really is. And Ring Central has this awesome feature called a ring out, where you can have your clients book a meeting through your scheduling software like your Acuity or like your Calendly, and Ring Central will actually call you at the time of your scheduled appointment and ask you to hit 1 to connect to your client, and it'll dial out the client for you. So I have one client on the automation side who has told me that this has changed his entire life. He cannot live without this feature anymore, because now he doesn't have to ever remember when he has a scheduled phone appointment, his phone calls him at the scheduled time and then it calls the client. So that's really, really cool. The other really cool thing about Ring Central with using Zapier in conjunction with it is you can have a report of how much time you're spending on the phone with your clients. And I think that's really important. I know when we talk about technology, we haven't really touched on time tracking yet, but I think it's really important that whether you're using technology to add efficiency or not, you're tracking a general idea at least of what you're doing and how much time you're spending doing each thing, so you can see where you need to add more efficiency. And also from a regulatory perspective, knowing how much time you're spending talking to clients to justify the fee that you're paying or are being paid rather, especially in certain states like Washington, where they want you to break down the engagement of what you're doing with your client. Having that as a backup record is an awesome thing, and you can put that right into Wealthbox automatically with Zapier and just have it log right to your client record, or same thing with Redtail, you can have it log right to your client record. And then there's Jive, which is another really popular one. They both have fax capabilities, they both have phone capabilities, texting capabilities. So you can do a lot with technology. It's really cool. You don't need to have a landline phone or a physical fax machine anymore if they're still old school people sending you faxes.
What's a fax machine?
Right?
What? Anybody in the anybody that's still in the insurance channel knows exactly what a fax machine is listening to this call right now. But yeah, it's like we still have a subscription to MetroFax, which is the online fax version, just for it's like $4 a month or something like that. And it's one of those things like, do we really need to have a darn fax number yet? But yeah,
I love it. Arielle, any other commentary on that?
I just hope that answered the question. I'm not sure if that was
I think you totally answered the question and filled it with a lot of really great nuggets of wisdom. Adam, do you have anything else to add to that? Otherwise, we can choose a different segment of technology to chat about.
Nope, that was awesome. That was really good. I mean, I use, I don't remember what, shoot, I'm sorry. 8x8, excuse me. I totally forgot what phone system we use. It does the job. It's certainly one of those items that if I were to pick what piece of tech could probably be in tune for an upgrade, yeah. But again, I'm going back to there's only so many hours in the day right now, and it's not that broken right now. So if I was starting from scratch, I would absolutely take what Arielle was talking about and see if that's going to be a fit. I certainly can add on to anything that she talked about. That's awesome.
Great.
I actually will add one more thing. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, go for it.
I will add one more thing. As far as our own phone system, we use a program called Sideline. It doesn't have a Zapier integration, so it wouldn't be as high up on my list as something like Ring Central, but it is a little less expensive. And I think one of the really cool features about it is that it has a built-in text message autoresponder. So when somebody calls me, if I don't pick up the phone, it sends them a text with a link to my Calendly to go ahead and book an appointment. And
beautiful.
It's just one of those little cool things that just improves the client experience and gets them to talk to you at a scheduled time faster. Because like Adam is a master at time blocking with his bulked appointments. I'm not at that level yet, but when you're in the middle of doing something, you don't necessarily want to be interrupted with an hour-long phone call that you weren't expecting. So I really never pick up the phone unless I know I have a scheduled appointment. And if somebody really needs to talk to me, they can block out time, or they can just leave me a voicemail and let me know, hey, this is an emergency, I'll call you back. But for those people, it's not an emergency. Here's the link, go to my calendar, schedule an appointment, and I'll meet with you.
I think that is I'm so glad you brought that up. I think that is something, not only just from again, through the filter of how does this provide an experience to your prospective clients and your clients that you're going to be working with, especially in the beginning stages of your firm, but equally, if not more important, just the ability to you be proactively in control of your time rather than reactive to what someone else is asking for. So the ability to block out and not answer your phone, which you need to do, you should. I get it. I know in the beginning stages, not everybody has someone working with them as part of their team, being that first point of contact. So you are wearing all those hats. I get that. So if a tool like this is that bridge to help you from being interrupted while still giving them the good experience of, it's the difference between being available versus accessible. Like Arielle's saying she's not available right now, but I'm still accessible through this channel. So understand the difference between those two. And I think that's an awesome solution. Thank you for bringing that up. What was that service again?
Sideline.
Sideline.
And you can do that with Ring Central too. I'll add that as well.
How does that, do those text messages get like a BCC email from a compliance standpoint then, or how?
No, they don't.
Okay, I didn't ask that question. Sorry, cut that out from the webinar.
But we have a text message archiving solution available for you.
Yes, that's right. Yes.
Yeah. It's just a standard text message. It's the same for everybody. It's literally exactly the same.
Got it.
And I don't delete the messages too. So it's technically archived, maybe not in a non-deletable manner, but it's there if a regulator really wanted to see it.
Got it.
So.
Awesome. I like that you don't want, you need to protect your time. You absolutely do. I've always loved Scott Gills, our senior compliance consultant, always says there's never a 2-minute compliance question. And that's the reason why we have not included a direct line to our compliance team, because it's very true, especially in the financial planning world. If you've got a client calling you, they're probably calling because they got something important to talk about. It's going to take up more than 2 minutes. So really good advice on the professional and personal levels too, just about needing to keep yourself sane. Folks, we're rounding out the hour. I cannot believe it. I felt like we were just getting started. I want to try to hit as many questions as we can. So callers, please drop in any last minute questions you'd love. I'm going to address this one. Box Cryptor, is it a compliant and approved way to store client files electronically? What technology do you suggest using to store client files electronically? Adam?
I'm not familiar with Box Cryptor, so I can't opine on that solution. I will say that most online platforms will give you their, I'm forgetting what is it, SEC 204A2 or something like that. The piece of regulation that dictates that it meets books and records compliance. We use ShareFile in our firm. So that dots all the I's and crosses all the T's for us. We use ShareFile not only for our document management system internally, but also the the central system for sharing documents back and forth with clients as well. So we have a central firm vault that clients can upload documents into. We drop files into them. We secure email them. All that all that is done through ShareFile for us.
Great. Arielle, how about you?
From a compliance perspective, I think it really depends on the regulations in your state.
Yeah.
But to Adam's point, ShareFile is a great system. It's compliant, it's secure. I think there's other solutions. There's Box, there's Dropbox, even Google Drive. Some states are fine with that. But I think more so important than choosing which system you're going to use is making sure that you have a backup of all of your files. And I don't know if you, Adam, were on the call with Amy Irvine about IT security yesterday, I think it was. But one of the biggest concerns, or I shouldn't say one of the biggest concerns, but a larger concern is losing data. Whether that's because of an accident or because of a virus that you've gotten that ransoms your data. If you don't have access to your own client's data, that can put you out of business right off the bat. And I mean, beyond the fact that it's a security risk, of course. So in addition to the security component of whatever software system you're using or whatever cloud storage system you're using to store files, again, just make sure you always have a backup somewhere, because God forbid you lose any of that data. That's a huge, huge process to undertake to get that back.
Wow.
That's a good point. One thing that I would add on top of that is, and I'm glad you brought that up because it reminded me of what we have set up with ShareFile. We don't have a single document on any of our computers. We're an all Mac office, so we have MacBook Pros across the office, but it is a mapped drive on our computer. So no document actually, quote unquote, lives on our physical laptops. So if something does happen to a laptop where we lose it or it's compromised from a security standpoint, I can go in on a different laptop, I can disable that machine via ShareFile, and nothing is going to be accessible from any of our machines anywhere. I can do that wherever I'm at in the world. We also use a VPN, ExpressVPN, as a way to have secure connections wherever we're at in the world, whether it's, again, Starbucks, public Wi-Fi, or I use a VPN on our home network here, even though we have, even though we're on a secure, even though I'm on a secure network in our house right now, I still tunnel in through a VPN. So yeah, don't discount that, and make sure that to the best that you can, don't have files living on your actual machines.
Great advice. Last question. I can't believe we're here. And before I ask this last question, I do want to run through a couple final, not disclaimers, final little points for all of our listeners. Again, if Arielle and Adam convinced you that our XYPN membership is made up of badass members, I hope it did. Please let us know if they were the reason you joined the network. We do hope that and when the time is right, that you make the decision to come on into our community. I think this example of the discourse between Arielle and Adam is a really great example of the kind of camaraderie and community and cross-pollination of ideas that happens really anytime we put two XYPN members together, whether it be virtual or in person at a conference like XYPN Live. We did just get a shout out. This has been fabulous. Thank you to both guests tonight. I totally agree. But let us know if you end up joining the network. We want to know if it was Arielle and Adam. We do have a survey for you that we're going to be sending you or dropping in the chat. I can't remember which way we do it, but please take that survey. If tonight was the way, it was very meaningful for you in terms of substance, let us know and we'll do more of these kind of calls. Usually we talk through different topics, and technology is always a hot button one. So also, okay, so it did come through chat. Awesome. Thank you so much, Ghost Host. So I think that is, oh, and of course, next month, the first Monday after the new year in January, or the first Wednesday after the new year, I should have my calendar up. We're going to be talking about study groups and the power of masterminding. Imagine if one of these two were in your study group, the kind of power you could soak in from their energy and in their expertise. So we're going to be talking about what the power of a mastermind group really is. So last but not least, Adam, I'll start with you and we'll end with Arielle. Any final words of wisdom about tech in a firm? And for those maybe who haven't yet taken the leap, a lot of this, I mean, I was taking notes and I've been talking this language for 6 years. A lot of it could sound daunting to folks. What piece of advice would you give a listener who maybe felt like this was awesome, but holy cow, there's a lot out there?
Do I have to go first? I'm trying to think.
I know. I was glad I was in the hot seat for that one.
I know. I'll just keep stalling here and give Arielle a little bit more time to think through things. Final. I'm trying to think of the perfect answer, like that hammer drop to leave everybody with. But I think it's going to be just as simple as, don't think that you're going to get it perfect the first time, and be content with just piecemealing it together. I'm looking for, like, I know after the call 5 minutes later, I'm like, oh, I should have said that. That would have been perfect. Get your CRM in order. That would probably be I think you absolutely need, your scheduling and CRM need to be 1A and 1B. You need to start with that. And a close second to that, to what Arielle was talking about, is learn Zapier, and also to determine what type of we didn't even talk about anything from a marketing side of things, the top end funnel tonight, about whether you're using ConvertKit, ActiveCampaign, if you're really getting the horsepower of a HubSpot or something like that, which I don't know that anybody on the call would need that type of horsepower. We didn't even talk about that yet, but just make sure that the tech that you're using is going to be able to talk to your other pieces, and that it's secure. Do your due diligence. Don't just sign up because it has a pretty landing page and a pretty home page. So make sure that you're doing your due diligence on what information they're getting out of you and your clients. And yeah, you're not going to solve it all in the very beginning, so don't be overwhelmed. We're still overwhelmed. I've been doing it 12 years, so.
Yeah, love it. Great piece of advice. And although we're a minute over, no one's dropped off yet. So let's get the last word from Arielle. Well, how about you?
Well, not to have shameless self-promotion, but if you have questions or concerns about tech, I am available. I do 15-minute free intro calls. So if you want to jump on a time, feel free. And I also, we started with Sphinx doing once a month Facebook Lives. So I will maybe send you the next time for that, Maddie, and I don't know if you want to blast it out, but if it's like the compliance office hours, and very similar to this format, roundtable discussion, any questions about tech, we can answer those for you, and if we can't, we'll point you in the right direction to do that.
Love it.
All right, well, she did it. Now I've got to take advantage of the platform. So I mean,
you should.
I'm an inch wide and a mile deep, though. So Arielle has a lot more to offer in the consulting side of things, and a lot more bells and whistles on different pieces of tech. I'm an inch wide and a mile deep in Redtail. So if you're a firm that uses Redtail, that's committed to Redtail, and you're looking to maximize the efficiency of that CRM, specifically with workflows and just how workflows talk to everything else, you can integratedcas.com, Charlie Alpha Sierra. So integratedcas.com is that firm's website. You can set up a 15-minute discovery call just to kind of pick my brain as well. Happy to have that conversation as well. But again, that's Redtail basic. That's it. She's got a lot more to offer than I do.
I don't agree with that. I would say if you do have questions about Redtail, Adam is a great resource. He and I have chatted very extensively about Redtail, and he knows his stuff. So.
I could be on this call all night long and talk to you folks, but let's let our callers drop off. Our East Coasters can go to bed. Thank you all so much for dialing in. These are such fun calls for all of us to host. Adam and Arielle are doing this for no other reason than the good of the movement and the good of supporting other advisors out here. So thank you both so much for your time. It's an honor every month to work with two individuals like you and hear their expertise and share all of that. So thank you so much for being great members, great advocates for the industry, great advisors for your clients, and most importantly, great members of this wonderful community. Have a great, safe, and wonderful rest of your Wednesday night, folks. I will see you next month. Have a good one. Bye-bye.
Thanks so much. Appreciate it.